Caregiving can sometimes feel like an impossible struggle. Caregivers may be torn between taking care of loved ones and trying to maintain balance in life. The good news is that it doesn't have to be that way. The Caring Generation with host Pamela D Wilson is here to focus on the conversation of caring. You're not alone. In fact, you're in exactly the right place to share stories and learn tips and resources to help you and your loved ones. So now, please welcome the host of The Caring Generation, Pamela D Wilson.
I'm Pamela D Wilson, caregiving expert, speaker, consultant, and guardian of the Caring Generation. Thank you for joining me for this week's show, episode 219, Caregiver Sibling Resentment. Before jumping into this week's topic, please, if you find this podcast helpful, take a second to like or follow this podcast on your favorite app or share a comment. Your likes, follows, and comments help the Caring Generation podcast reach more people worldwide looking for hope, help, and support for their health or when caring for aging or elderly parents, spouses, or other family members. Caregiver sibling resentment. When someone in your family who you believe should be helpful or another person you care about does something you don't like or hurts your feelings, you can feel unimportant, dismissed, betrayed, angry, or resentful. Maybe your mom or dad has criticized you all your life, or your sibling did something 5 years ago, 10 years ago that you just haven't gotten over. Working through these issues can mean bearing one's soul, which can be intimidating if you don't want to show vulnerability or make the effort to resolve them. So what happens? Resentment and bitterness creep in. If a sibling moves on with their life and resentment eats at you every day, you are the one whose life is damaged. A sibling may not give your memory of an event or issue a second thought. They may have thought about it for a minute, let it go years ago. This is especially true when siblings come back together, when elderly parents need care or assistance. One sibling may do all the work and resent the other sibling or siblings who are not helping, even though the caregiver sibling never asked for help or stressed why they needed help. In some cases, there may be issues of trust between a sibling and another sibling who is not honest or holds back information. Maybe your sibling had a closer relationship with mom or dad, and you're jealous. There are many reasons for caregiver sibling resentment. Families aren't perfect. Parents model behaviors for their children, but if you had a parent who wasn't a good role model, communicator, empathizer, or provider, everyone in your family may have struggled to get along. Cultural differences can also result in family relationship struggles. First-generation parents may try to limit their children's exposure to things they perceive as risky or potentially harmful by saying, "We don't do those things," which may refer to going away to college or becoming a doctor, because a parent could never see themselves doing these things. As a result, children may rebel in their younger years, move away from home, and later return as caregivers of parents who attempted to limit their life possibilities. These adult children can resent their parents. On the other hand, siblings who remained at home because of hearing a parent say, "We don't do those things," may resent siblings who left to create opportunities for themselves. Regardless of where you are with caregiver sibling resentment, what can you do to manage through situations where elderly parents need care and you have to find ways to work with or coordinate information with other siblings, assuming there is a mutual interest in helping your parents? The first step to release caregiver sibling resentment is to forgive by deciding to let go of resentment and anger. You make this choice. Refuse to allow feelings of resentment about your siblings or anyone else to control your mind and your life. If you hold on to resentment and anger, these feelings will eventually destroy you. While you're stuck on being angry about something, your sibling or another person, as I mentioned, probably doesn't even remember the event that you're angry about. On the other hand, think about this. You may have done something to someone else that you don't remember. And some person out there somewhere is remembering that event to this day, and they are thinking of you every day, and they are cursing you every single day. What good does that do for anybody? Talk to your sibling. Agree to put the past in the past. Agree not to talk about past issues. Agree only to talk about the future and solutions for your parents. Caregivers have a choice. Everybody has a choice. They can let resentment ruin their lives or forgive and move ahead. If you forgive, you can decide if you want a relationship with a sibling and place boundaries or parameters around the relationship. For example, I can do this, but I can't do that. Or you can refuse to have anything to do with a sibling. Although this no contact may be challenging if both of you see your parents. Realize it or not, siblings who don't get along place elderly parents in difficult and uncomfortable situations. Elderly parents don't want to have to take sides. Don't put them in a position to do so. Let's say there are two children in the family. If you don't get along, you probably try to avoid each other when seeing your parents. This means you might ask mom or dad when your sibling is visiting so that you can avoid those hours or days. But what if you run into your sibling? Will you be the one to cause a scene, or will you leave if they were already at mom or dad's house when you arrived? If this is your situation, making an agreement with your sibling or at least talking about schedules for times to visit parents can be respectful of your parents and keep your parents out of the middle of refereeing disagreements or having to choose one or the other child. This way, you don't have to talk to your parents at all about the sibling you don't get along with. Why burden your parents with problems between you and your sibling? That's between you and your sibling. You don't need your parents to speak up or stand up for you by this time in your life, or at least I hope you don't. With technology today, you and your sibling, you don't even have to talk if you don't want to. All you need to agree is a process like updating a Google Calendar or some type of other calendar system that you and your sibling agree to use, update, and check. Think of work and society today. Honestly, how often do you have real voice conversations or virtual meetings with people? Emailing and texting have replaced in-person communication and, unfortunately, sometimes in-person relationships. Alexa and Siri have replaced the need to have a conversation with a real person. You ask a question, Alexa and Siri answer. For older adults who are isolated, Alexa and Siri may be the only contact with a voice that responds and doesn't argue, especially if family relationships are strained. That is a sad state of the universe. So, if caregiver-sibling resentment exists and you'd rather not have in-person contact, figure out how to become connected through technology. That said, it's a good idea to establish ground rules for response times, frequency of emails, number of text messages. I counsel siblings who complain that another sibling will text them 10 times in a day or send 20 emails they don't have time to read, which drives them crazy. This can happen when one sibling has a demanding job. Maybe they are a surgeon or a college professor, and another sibling has more free time, or maybe they're retired. In this case, agree on time frames for responses and how many emails and texts can be sent in a day or in a week. Agree on a reasonable response time. For example, responding within 24 or 48 hours, or checking and responding to emails on Mondays and Thursdays. Make an agreement, keep your agreement so that you can establish trust. None of this is easy if caregiver-sibling resentment exists, but you can develop workable relationships. Just think of your sibling as a coworker or a boss you don't like, but one with whom you have to have a relationship in order to keep that job you love. The job in this case is to care for your elderly parent. Put their needs above your disagreements and your personal injuries and hurts. Beyond this, you can include agreements about what you communicate about or what you want to know. For example, if you don't live near a parent, do you want to know if they go to the hospital or if the dog goes to the vet? Be clear on what you want to know to avoid disagreements that result from, "Oh, you didn't tell me that." If you're the sibling who moved away from home, be realistic that your other sibling who lives close to mom and dad, who's doing caregiving tasks for them, will likely be appointed power of attorney, trustee, or the executor of their estate or personal representative of their will. While it's possible to fill these roles from far away, honestly, it's difficult if taking parents to doctor appointments, picking up prescriptions, coordinating in-home care, visiting them at assisted living are part of an ongoing responsibility. Hard to do that from 500 miles away, 1,000 miles away, 2,000 miles away. Proximity and practicality are usually the reasons that one sibling becomes the primary caregiver, especially if all the other siblings move away. If this is your situation and you're the sibling who's moved away, ask how you can help. It may be doing online research about care agencies, caregiving communities, a medical condition. Maybe it's calling mom or dad every week. Or you visit once a year so your sibling can take a week's vacation. When caregiver-sibling resentment exists, the longer you allow this resentment to build without having conversations with siblings, the more challenging it will be to start these communications at some point in the future about an elderly parent's care situation. Eventually, this is going to happen. Eventually, talking will be necessary if you both care about your parents. This can include communication with step siblings that you may not know at all or may not know very well. Let's say mom or dad remarry and they move away. You don't live near them, so it's likely a stepsister or a stepbrother will be that primary caregiver or your parents' legal representatives. In this case, don't expect updates or information unless you participate and become involved. On the other hand, you may receive a call one day out of the blue that your step-sibling is done caring for your parent because their parent just passed away. Out of sight is out of mind. Caregiving issues between step families are becoming more common, and this is something to pay attention to long before your parents need care. Few parents or adult children can really predict what will happen when parents age. The most practical step you can take is to initiate conversations in the family with your parents, your siblings, and step-siblings if you have them. Getting all the information, all the concerns out in the open. Being transparent. Asking your parents to put their wishes in writing. All of this can avoid family conflict, disagreements, and resentment later. I help adult children and aging parents who don't know how to have these conversations. Sometimes aging parents want to talk and adult children aren't interested, or the opposite. Adult children want to talk and aging parents are resistant. Not talking, or as they say, kicking the can down the road, can result in family conflicts that can be more difficult to resolve when you're dealing with unexpected problems. The timing of these conversations is critically important. If there's a history of Alzheimer's disease or some other serious disease in your family, or if anybody is noticing that a parent might be experiencing memory loss. In some situations, the parent who is the caregiver may be in denial about the health condition or situation of their spouse, your mom or dad. In every case, regardless of the situation, planning at least 3 to 5 years ahead is practical and necessary to avoid unexpected problems. If you need help with that, you can schedule a consultation with me. Go to my website, PamelaDWilson.com, click on Services and Elder Care Consultant. As children learn how to prepare for these hard conversations, talking early and often can save you a lot of time and stress in the future. Doing a little bit of research can save you a lot of time and stress in the future. It's important for you to know if your parents expect you to be their caregiver versus your brother or sister. It's important to know what your parents want for care, where they want to live, and whether they even have money to pay for care. There's no need to be the adult child who is shocked by a parent's expectation about your role in the family when a need for care arises if you ask. A son or daughter or an only child often find themselves in these situations when nobody thought to have a conversation. And while some states have filial responsibility laws, which means children are obligated to pay for the care of parents, not all states widely enforce these because of the government program called Medicaid, which is something you can investigate 3 to 5 years before your parents run out of money. In any situation where caregiver-sibling resentment exists, letting go of the past, agreeing to focus on the future, finding a way to work together, or at a minimum, technology you can use to communicate about a parent's care can support transparency, avoid more conflict, and avoid potential legal issues in the family. In cases where elderly parents and adult children have been estranged for a lifetime, it's probably unrealistic and not even possible for a parent to expect that this child who left years ago and you haven't spoken to is going to be your caregiver. If that's the case, you definitely need a different plan. Thank you all for joining me for episode 219, Caregiver Sibling Resentment. Please like and follow the Caring Generation podcast to help the show reach more listeners. If you want to read the show transcript and watch the video that accompanies this episode, go to my website, PamelaDWilson.com, click on the Media tab, then the Caring Generation tab, scroll down to find episode 219. I'm Pamela D Wilson, caregiving expert, advocate, and speaker. You're with me on the Caring Generation. I look forward to being with you again soon. God bless you all. Sleep well tonight, have a fabulous day tomorrow, and enjoy each day until we are here together again.
Tune in each week for the Caring Generation with host Pamela D. Wilson. Come join the conversation and see how Pamela can provide solutions and peace of mind for everyone. Here on Pamela D. Wilson's The Caring Generation.